Hello, I hope this video finds you well. Tonight we're looking at xyzThere from the string 2 section, and this is a Java solution. The problem states return true if the given string contains an appearance of xyz where xyz is not directly preceded by a period. So xyz counts, but x.xyz does not. And we can look at these examples here, and we see xyz, so it's true. We see .xyz, so it's false, and we see an xyz, so it returns true. Alright, so what I did was I just kind of set us up here. I just returned false and hit go. Because pretty much, if I can make it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through the entire string looking for an xyz that does not have a period in front of it. And if I get through the whole string and don't find one, I can return false. This is the type of situation that as soon as I find an xyz that is not preceded by a period, I can stop. So there's going to be an if statement inside my loop with a return true value in it. So let's start just by writing a really simple loop that's going to find xyz. So we're going to write for int I equals 0, I is less than str.length, and then I is equal to I plus 1. Now I know this isn't quite perfect, but we're going to go back and fix it in a second. I'm going to say if str.substring from I to I plus 3 dot equals xyz, well, if that's the case, we're going to return true. And I hit go, and I see it kind of works. So let's kind of break it down and understand what's happening. So we see in the cases where there's an xyz, it works fine. We see in a case here where there's a .xyz, it returns true, but we should get false. So why is that happening? Well, that's happening because, there's two things that have to happen for it to be true. I have to check to make sure that not only is what I'm looking at xyz, but I have to check the character before that and make sure it's not a dot. So I'm going to add an AND statement here, and I'm going to say str.char at, and I'm going to say I minus 1 is not equal to a period. So now I'm going to check the substring and check is it xyz, and the character before it is not a dot. Then I return true. So I hit go, and now I get all these index out of bounds error. So it's a whole other world now. Oh, some of them work. Now why am I getting index out of bounds error? Well, what's happening here is essentially this. I is going to start right there, and then I'm going to include those two characters. That's the xyz I'm checking. But when I check the character before it, that means when I do I minus 1, I'm getting an index that is before 0. So since this counter starts at 0, what's happening is I'm checking that when I is 0, this becomes negative 1. So if I change this to 1 and I hit go, what's happening now is this is the state where it's starting. Now I still get some index out of bounds errors, and the reason why I'm getting index out of bounds errors is because at the other end. So I've dealt with the index out of bounds errors that are resulting from the front, but let's look at our last case. Our last case we want to look at is this. So if the length of this string is 10 here, I want to reach 7. And so it's going to be the length, which is 10, and to get to 8 minus 2 because it's less than. So I hit go, and that gets rid of those index out of bounds errors. Again, this is a really important approach that I recommend for students. It's a non-coding thing, but it's working with a concrete example, and then checking which values you want to look at, and then find the values to set your loop to. So let's talk about this last case here. Well, we can see this last case here. It should be true, but we get false. And the reason why we get false is because we actually don't check the first 3 letters. And that's the same thing here. We actually don't check the first 3 letters. This is fine because it skips the loop altogether and returns false. So what we can do here is we can put an if statement before it. We can say if str.substring, and I'm going to go 0, 3. If that is equal to xyz, okay, we're going to return true. And before I hit go, I hope some of you are saying, wait a second, there's a problem, because there is. But let's see it anyways. Oh, what did I do wrong there? Probably spelled something wrong. I forgot an S on equals. There you go. And so it works sometimes, but I get all these index out of bounds errors again. And the reason is because I'm checking the first 3 letters, and this case only has 2, this has 1, this has none. So we get that, we're pulling out, we're getting that index out of bounds issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say str.length is greater than or equal to 3 and there it is. Make sure you put this first, because the reason why this works is because it checks the length, and if the length is less than 3, it actually won't check the second part of this if statement. I hope that video helped. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful day. I lied. I'm actually going to do one more solution to this. It dawned on me as I was wrapping up that I should probably do a one-liner for this. Okay, we're going to take advantage of this great replace method. So I'm going to return str.replace, and I'm going to replace all of the .xyz's with an empty string. So that's going to collapse our string. And then I'm going to check the index of an xyz. So essentially, once I've replaced all the .xyz's with an empty string, that's going to get rid of all the .xyz's, and therefore I'll only find an xyz if there's a case where I have a straight up xyz. And so we want to check to make sure that is greater than 0. This is a Boolean. Sorry, it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Pardon me. There we go. Anyways, a little messy at the end. I hope that helped. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.